that you've given me, all the talents, everything you have. Hey, everybody. It is Kendéll Lenice, and welcome to Kendéll Lenice Live. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Y'all know Kendéll Lenice Live used to be running like this all the time. So I'm excited to be back with you on my talk show. It's all about important conversations with a compassionate approach on Kendéll Lenice Live. It's about changing the narrative. I'm excited to have this conversation today. So you're going to want to share this out right now, not now, but right now, because this is going to be a great conversation as we are on the heels of the Olympics. So when we talk about the Olympics, I have an amazing person that's going to join me today. And he has trained in the area of track and field. He has trained Olympic runners, right? People who have gone to the Olympics. He was the trainer. He still has a strong connection in that realm. And he also is a former Nike trainer as well as an author. He is a former track and field star himself. And he teaches, or I should say, coaches athletes at Newberry. Let me make sure I got it right. Newberry College. So I want to give some statistics first for a moment, because I think it's important to do that. I was looking up, today's topic. I'm gonna wait for a minute. I just want to talk about the Olympic Games, right? And how these athletes train from when they were really little on up to adulthood, entering the Olympic Games. And many of their dreams in whatever sport they're in, they want to go to the Olympics, right? But it comes at a cost. It comes at a price. And more times than not, some are vocal about it, but more times than not, mental health and their mental health being compromised is very likely with these athletes. Now, we saw, if you've watched the new documentary on Netflix, Simone Biles documentary, she publicly talks about her mental health. And if you remember when she was in Tokyo in 2020, she stopped in the middle of the games and said, I'm going back home because my mental health is compromised. They laughed her out of Tokyo. All the newscasters, all the vloggers, all the bloggers, all the writers were like, she needs to suck it up like such and such. She needs to do this. You don't come to the Olympic Games and come this far to quit. She's a quitter. No one gave a care about that girl's mental health. And I commend Simone Biles for saying, you know what? This isn't right. And they show on the documentary that she calls home and says, I'm coming home. Her mother and them was like, come on, let's go. In the middle of them watching her on the Olympics, they were like, come home. And I love that about her parents. And she talked strongly about her parents, and they have been a force within this, right? So a lot of athletes are touched inappropriately. A lot of athletes go through emotional abuse by their coaches, and so on and so on and so on. And then to compete that high of a level, that comes with sacrifice. That comes with a lot of mental anguish. And athletes who have been vocal about this, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, Naomi Osaka, Jaylene Roberts, Raven Saunders, Gracie Gold, and Allison Schmidt. Now, many go through this, but what I find interesting is these are all women outside of Michael Phelps. Shout out Baltimore, right? I'm sure a lot of men go through this same thing, but sometimes it's not acceptable for men to talk about their mental health. And I'm so glad that men are talking about mental health. My boyfriend is a trainer and a gym owner, and he publicly talks about his struggle with mental health and dealing with depression and thoughts of unliving, because we can't say the S word on here, but thoughts of unliving himself, right? You get what I'm saying? And he's vocal. And you look at him, he got muscles, he's a trainer, he's handsome. People might say, oh, no, he ain't got that issue or problem, or he made it to this point. No, he ain't got that issue or problem. And men aren't taken seriously when it comes to mental health. And I'm so glad that more men are stepping up and stepping out and talking about this. So my guest today is Anthony Washington. As I told you, he has trained athletes in the level of in the area of track and field, and they have made it to the Olympic Games. He has trained NFL players, right? He has also been a trainer for Nike, and he currently trains athletes at Newberry College. I believe that's South Carolina. I always say get the mix up, South Carolina, right? And he also is a great friend of mine. I know him from high school, and we were track together. We were athletes. And I'll let him tell you who won our first race together, because I don't want to talk about that. But and we were talking the other day, and he said, I want to talk about mental health in athletes. And I said, that's right. And he already knew it's right up my alley. I was just having this conversation. We were just publicly talking about this on my social media platforms. And I think it's very important. So without further ado, Mr. Anthony Washington, and he is in his office at the college where he trains athletes. All right, look at him smiling backstage. Let's go, Mr. Anthony Washington.
Hey, Kendéll, how you doing? This is a relaxed intensity, so I'm just want to enjoy myself, but talk about a very serious situation,
Yes,
at the same time.
yes, yes. I want to talk about this. So, returning to competition, as I was doing my research for this show, it says that it may come to no surprise, but 35% of elite athletes suffer from symptoms of anxiety and depression. That's mental health. Olympic athletes often face anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues after the high stakes competing, after everything wraps up. So this is the time right now, right? Olympic athletes pour everything into training for the games, routinely pushing their physical and mental bounds to the limit, right? So it's like you're achieving, you're waiting for this thing to happen, and then it happens, and then you're not doing that anymore. But it's not just Olympic athletes, it's athletes that you see. Tell me why it was important to have this conversation with me today.
Well, the importance of today's situation, well, today's comment or today's topic was the overwhelming, alarming amount of athletes that have this. And it's gotten to the point where now the NCAA has coaches actually studying this and actually understanding the science. So we need to really know what we're doing when we're dealing with this type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have come to understand that even though that there's athletes that have the challenges, I would call the word challenges,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some have the ability to bounce right back. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a traumatic situation. It happened. They get a chance to talk to somebody about it, and they start practicing and using different people that they trust that actually have these conversations with.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I tell a lot of people is that don't ever say, "Well, it can't happen to me." It can, and it does. It just doesn't happen to the intensity to some other athletes. What type of
Mm-hmm.
traumatic situation are they dealing with that they can't, one, talk to somebody about it, or
Mm-hmm.
two, won't talk to somebody about it? You
Yeah.
know, and then you take the athletes who have this overwhelming type of they have this surrounding a group of people around them that checks and
Mm-hmm.
balances them all the time and say, "Hey man, what's going on with you today? What's the matter? What's
Yeah.
going on?" And that's the one. But when I've had I would just say on over the air, I've had my own experiences with athletes
Mm-hmm.
on a very scary situation on two different occasions. I'll say that.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Of course, we're not saying names, and you can't on here, don't say the S word because they'll limit the people watching. And I want everybody to catch this. So the unalive, or you can say the S word.
Well,
The
they didn't do that. It
mm-hmm,
didn't get to that level, but it came very
mm-hmm.
close,
Okay.
where hospitalization had to take place on two different
Okay.
occasions.
Okay.
And the last situation was really hurtful because the child was my son's age at the time. And I could not figure out for the life of me what was going on in his life to such a degree that he went over the edge on more than one occasions. Then there was a female that went over the edge on more than one occasions.
When you
And
say
they
over
just
the edge, when you say over the edge, what do you mean?
they tried to do what they wanted to do.
Got it.
There was an
Mm-hmm.
attempt, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
And because there was an attempt,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it was a college athlete, a pro athlete, or one of my private athletes. I'm not going to say
Mm-hmm.
it's all of the above is the word I would use, in the
Yeah.
situations. And the thing is that you rally around that person and you try to get them to calm down and get them to understand that life happens and things take place, but it's your ability to make an adjustment so that you start working on against that situation.
Yeah. Why do you find, as I talked earlier, and we talked about mental health, and I want to focus on the male athletes for a moment, because it seems to me that some, not all, but some of the female athletes are able to say, like Naomi, Simone paved the way for her to be able to say that. And when they come out and say, I want to protect my mental health, they're looked at as ungrateful. They're looked at as, what do you mean mental health? So many people want to be in the same, breathe the same air you breathe, right? And reach their competitive sport at this high level. What do you mean? What do you have to be depressed over? What do you have to be anxious over? And I'm so glad that these young women are saying, listen, I need my mental health break. So I'm so glad that Simone Biles did it and she was able to lead. Women have a tough time, but Michael Phelps is the only one I read on my list, right? That's a man. Why do you think it's difficult for men or male athletes to admit that something is going on with their mental health, whether it's depression, anxiety, so on and so on?
Because they think they can shake it on their own. They think that they can do it
Mm-hmm.
themselves. When I went through my situation with my father passing, it was someone that
Mm-hmm.
told me, "Hey, man, you need to go to get grief counseling." And I've had so many traumatic situations in my life where
Mm-hmm.
I should have gotten help and I didn't because what I call I toughed it out, toughen it out.
Mm,
And what it
mm,
does is it does something to you. And I'm gonna say this, and I think now this is one of the things that I want to share with you that not only the athletes but also the coaches go through these changes. You know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
And there's a situation that I can't say over the air, but even to the point where when we're at the highest level of this, the one thing that always takes place is a word that I use called unreasonable expectations. And men go through that time and time again. Unreasonable expectations in relationships, unreasonable, can't even talk, but unreasonable expectation in family and friends, and even unreasonable
mm,
expectation in their sport, where that you
mm,
cannot do no wrong because you're that guy, so to speak. So
mm,
you have to do something about that. And it carries over to coaches, and it goes to where coaches are now going through mental health now, because an overwhelming expectation of performing, you know,
mm,
making sure you're winning. And one of the things that I had to go through, and I wanted to share this with you, was I started dealing with counteracting it with mental intensity, you know, taking the past of what I've done in the past and bringing it to my future to the point where I'm overwhelmingly putting myself in a position that's unreasonable. So when I started dealing with,
Wait a minute. I
mental
want you to pause for a minute. What do you mean?
mental
Because
intensity,
somebody's like, okay, what is he saying? You started putting yourself in a position that's unreasonable.
because we have to win all the time. There is no failure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that the programs or any other staffs or any type of working with NFL, mental intensity, working with college, mental intensity, private athlete and coach, mental intensity. We're dealing with these types of intensities that we look at our past and we bring it to the future and thinking that what happened in the past is going to be my today. And it's not. So when I started dealing with that mental intensity, I started saying, you know what? Now it comes to the point where no matter what has to take place. No matter what, I'm going to coach. No matter what, I'm going to expect my athletes to do what they got to do, whether they do it or don't do it. You know, I put myself in a position of demand to say, I'm supposed to be here because I'm good at what I do. I reaffirm myself in this mental intensity that I go through. I just do reaffirming. I tell myself all the time, hey, you just got to do what you got to do. Trust the movement, trust the program, trust the workouts, trust your athlete, you know. And that's what a lot of people don't want to talk about, with this men's mental health because we don't share and tell everybody what we're going
Mm-hmm.
through because we don't want to look quote unquote weak.
I understand that, and I must say it makes me sad. I've heard this before. Like men apologize. I noticed that for sharing their emotions. Men often apologize for allowing themselves to feel or to be weak in a moment. And I think that is very unfair. And I know that I don't like it because men have emotions, just like women have emotions. You're going to have to emote, express, get it out, because if not, it's going to build up, and that causes all kind of diseases, heart attacks included. Um, where do you think that ideology came from, where men have to be strong and men are unable to share their feelings and emotions to a fault?
I was put in a position myself to have a macho man Randy Savage mindset from my
Mhm,
elders, you know.
mhm,
And when I say my elders, I'm talking about my own potential family that I came from
mhm,
under. Men and
mhm,
grandfather,
mhm,
grandfather, uncle. They say men don't cry, men are not weak, men stand up.
mhm,
But one thing that I've learned, as an athlete, a professional, a coach, a mentor, an author, is that people watch you all the time. But what I had to accept is let people watch you fall, so you can get back up. You know, go ahead and do it wrong. It's okay to do it wrong because the thing is when people fail, so when you have unreasonable expectations, you were supposed to win. Who said that? I was supposed to do my best last time I checked.
mm,
When you look at a relationship and you're training as an Olympic athlete, you're dealing with relationships. Okay, are you going to get the money that you're supposed to get? Are you going to be able to sustain this family? Are you going to be able to train and take care of your child at the same time? Unreasonable expectations. And what you have to do to counteract it, fall. Go ahead and let that happen
mm,
so that you can realize
mm,
that you're a human being, so that you can realize you're
mm.
not a machine, you know?
That part,
Yes, because
that
I've
part.
actually had friends. I have friends that are on the highest level in the sport. So
Mm-hmm,
what?
mm-hmm,
I tell people all the time. I've never accomplished what you've done, but I know what you're going through.
mm-hmm.
And I can say that because the
Yeah.
thing is, at the end of the day, when I went to grief counseling, the lady said, "You'll cry when it's time for you to cry. Don't have an expectation when you cry. When you're ready to
Mm,
cry, you'll cry." And see, the thing
mm-hmm,
is that she took away the pressure of feeling. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? She took away the pressure of
Yeah.
me feeling when I'm supposed to feel something. You know, she took away the feeling of when you go through a divorce, when you go through, you didn't win at that particular time. So what? Because when I lost as a coach, when I did it wrong, the coach said to me, "Okay, now let's do it right.
Mm.
Now that you done failed, let's look at what happened." And so, what
Mhm.
people don't want to do, people are afraid to fall.
Mm.
And see, when we were kids, we fell. We scraped
Mhm.
our knees. We fell off our bikes. Okay,
Mhm.
we fell off the monkey bars. Okay, and
Mhm.
when we did, we got back up. It hurt, but after we cried and wiped our nose and washed off our boo boos and stuff like that, we got back into the mix. And people are not doing that anymore mentally.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they're not. They're not doing that anymore. And what's going on now is that when you look at men are going through these situations and they don't have anybody to talk to, and guess what? It's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
You're going to fall in some. You're going to lose someday. You're going to fall one day.
Yeah.
You're going to get it wrong one day. So let it happen. Get it over
Yeah.
with.
And you said a lot, and you said some good stuff, and you talked about men not having anyone to talk about it with. Put a pin in that one moment, and I want to share this with you. So, as I teach young kids, right, young boys, I noticed that that 7, 8, 7-year-old range, they don't care if they cry. They don't care if girls are supposed to cry and boys are not supposed to cry. They are crying freely. They're feeling their feelings and emotions. And at some point, somebody is going to tell them, whether they're not telling them at home, because at school they might be free. I mean, when I tell you they are crying, sometimes more than the girls, they are free to be able to emote and feel their emotions. And there's something that happens between that 7-year-old age in that 13-year-old age where somebody at home or otherwise is saying, suck it up, buttercup. If you can't be crying, there's no crying, like there's no crying in baseball, there's no crying in life. You have to suck it up and you have to be a man. And I have a problem with that. You're 8 years old. You're not supposed to suck it up and be a man. Can you talk about that? And then I want to circle back to, and you can go with this. Why don't other men talk to each other about their mental health, whether it's on the basketball court, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's at the baseball dugout? Why do you feel, or whether it's in a college environment, just where you are right now, why do you feel that men don't talk about their mental health as athletes or just as men in general?
I've been guilty of that myself with my own son. And I will tell you
Mhm,
about this. My
mhm,
son was playing football at the age of 7 years old,
mhm,
and he was playing football for the first time. And every play, he kept looking at me. I'm like, why are you looking at me? I said, you don't
mhm,
have to. I'm not asking you to be somebody that you're not. Do your best. But on the flip
mhm,
side, at 12 years old, my son came to me crying about a situation. I said, listen to me. This is the last time you want to do this in front of me. Okay? Come and talk to me. Don't come to me crying. I said that to him. Okay? But then to turn around at
mhm,
15, 16 years old, I had to backtrack and say to him, hey, guess what? You don't have to be that way. You know what I'm saying? If it happens, it happens. I had to go back and retract what I taught my own son not to do. And then I had to say, hey, man, it's
mm,
okay. I had to do that.
mm,
And so,
mm.
with this, what was the second question again? What
I
was your
wanted
second
to
question?
know, so with boys, we talked about boys, right? And we
Yeah.
talked about you not knowing, saying suck it up. And some women do it also. I was watching Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, and she said because she was from Baltimore, she had to be tough. And there was a toughness that she had to carry because she was walking the streets and doing what she was doing, and she couldn't appear to be weak, even at 4'11", right? So when her daughter Willow came to her with feelings and emotions, she like, don't come to me with all, just like you did. Don't come with me at all that crying.
Yeah.
Stop crying. And she said she had to apologize to her. because she was putting her trauma and how she thought it should be on her. And that's similar to what you're saying. You were conditioned when you were younger to suck it up and don't cry. I think women as well, but I think it's more acceptable for women to cry and not men, which I think is wrong.
Let me tell you something. When we were running together back in the 80s over at Oakcrest, I had an
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
had an unreasonable expectation of winning every weekend at Oakcrest. Everything was happening perfectly at
Mhm.
Oakcrest. When I
Mhm.
got to Arizona,
Shout
it
out to
had
old Chris.
gotten to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And the problem is that overwhelming expectation, that unreasonable expectation, couldn't carry over to the collegiate level. It couldn't work like that.
Mhm.
I was going to have to
Mhm.
reset and accept the terms and conditions of what my body can do and what my body cannot do. You know, and so
Mhm.
when I look at what men have taught me and how they share for me to be, I
Mhm.
shifted it, Kendall, to you know what? I can protect myself without having to feel like Macho Man Randy Savage either. You know what I'm saying? I don't have
Yeah.
to have while I run the
Yeah.
entire room, but I do control my personal space
Yeah.
from a mental perspective. So when I
Yeah.
look at today and when I look at what we tell, what we don't tell, what we share, what we don't share, it's like this. Do we have balance? Is there somebody we can talk to that we trust? Because if you don't have nobody to
Yeah.
trust,
Yeah.
you need to find somebody that's in that professional realm, like what you do, or like what mental health does. Because somebody has to hear your story.
Yeah. But why do you think men don't talk about it like during you're swinging a golf course, well golf club, right? Why don't you think more men talk about it together? Like talk about therapy and you tell me, I'm not a man. Do men talk about therapy? Do men talk about, I wasn't feeling my best today? Do men talk about like I'm stressed out? Do men have these kind of conversations?
It all comes down to what circle you belong in. What circle are you in? Are you in a circle where you appear to be vulnerable? You can say something like that. Or do
Mhm.
you have somebody that's very, very close to you that won't judge you and say, hey, man, I'm going through it. I need your help. I have people like that
Yeah.
call me. I got people that call me
One
and
moment. Let us know. If you're watching live or the playback, and if you're a man watching, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. What do you have friend groups or circles or teammates that you can openly talk about your mental health? Or do you keep everything inside? Or do you have that one person? Or tell us why. Why don't you if you don't? But go ahead, continue. I want them
so
to.
I have a circle of friends that they call me when they're really going through something
Mhm.
and they talk to me only. You know what I mean? Because I don't share what they talk about. And I've been put into the position where I'm trustworthy, where it goes, it's not going to go anywhere else. It's not going to be a gossip columnist. It's not
Mhm.
going to be reached out to everybody else to hear because they talk to me and me only, and it stays with me. And I've become trustworthy like that. But then there's certain people that will never tell me their personal business like that. It's not going to happen. And I'm talking about professional people, Kendall. I'm talking about professional players,
Mhm.
athletes in different sports that are professionals. They don't bring that up. It doesn't
Mhm.
happen, you
Mhm.
know. And I've seen situations where I've seen professional athletes have their lights turned off. I'm like, oh my God, I thought you were good, you
Mm.
know. And they don't say even that. I'm like, dude, why don't you say something? I would have gave you the money. Why don't you say
Mm.
something? You
It
know?
sounds like that pride.
Yeah.
Do you think it's pride?
Some pride and some. I think there is some sort of pride. But I think that some sort of people just don't have the ability to do that,
I
to
get it.
open up. You know what I'm
I get
saying?
it.
Me and my dad was talking one time before he passed away, and he was telling me about him and his wife. I said, Dad, you got to make that woman feel safe. What you mean make her feel safe? She comes home, don't she? He didn't
Mhm.
understand the ability
Mhm.
of putting people in a position not to feel a certain way or put them in a position
Mhm.
to feel lesser than. you
Mhm.
know and the thing is with me and my family, I had to stand
Mhm.
my ground. with my father. I had to stand my ground with my uncle, you know, and tell him straight up, listen, I'm your nephew, I'm your son, but you're not doing that. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I'm
You
saying
set
it
boundaries.
respectfully, huh?
You set boundaries.
Yes,
Sounds
you
like.
have to. You have to. You respect your elders, but you let them know there's a limit to what you can say and do. There's a
Yeah.
limit, you know, and you just can't do those certain things. And before I forget, I wanted to share something with you real quick about the Olympic Games. And there was a situation that took place with Shakari Richardson, Shelly Ann Fraser, and another athlete not being
Mm-hmm.
able to go into the warm up area. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very big thing for mental health
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't go the way that all three of the women thought it was going to go
Mm-hmm.
when they had to reroute their mental
Mm-hmm.
preparation, you know. But when I look at Shakari Richardson in the 100-meter dash and what happened in that, and then I look at the Shakari Richardson in the 4x1, you see the comeback that she did from that, the mental adjustments that she's made from the open 100-meter dash to the 4x1. She destroyed the field in the 4x1, you know. And it was like she had the ability to bounce back. Some people just don't. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
they get something like that, I call
Yep.
it the perfect storm. There's no such thing as a perfect storm. Same thing that
Mm-hmm.
happened with Noah Lyles getting COVID with, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and couldn't finish the race properly in the two. Did not
Mm-hmm.
return in the 4x1. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I tell everybody, there's no such thing as a perfect storm. With Noah Lyles not being in that 4x1, there's a huge difference in what America can and
Mm-hmm.
can't do. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it comes down
Mm-hmm.
to mental adjustments and what we can and can't bounce off of. And it's a shame for
Yeah.
professional athletes, especially for men. Some men can't be shaken from their routine. You know, I had an athlete at the World Indoor Track and Field Championships. I never forget this. In 2016, he said, Coach Washington, you're the only one that can keep me this calm in this situation. We're at a World Championships. We went from the first round to the second round. Okay. That means top 16 world. Top 16 world. And we stuck to the plan. Like, no, you're not doing this. You're not going to do something crazy. We're going to stick to the plan and we're going to make adjustments accordingly. And that's when I put him in
Mm-hmm.
that position. Said no, even with people that are around you, you got to keep them calm from in a mental, especially men. Hey, calm down. You're gonna be fine. Do what works. Okay. Make everything work the way it's supposed to work. Let's not get off our path and try something different today. We're not doing that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do as a coach. You have to stabilize your athletes and make sure, from a mental perspective, don't waver. You know, stick to what we've been doing. It'll work. Just trust it.
Mm-hmm. I want to, and that's good advice. I want to talk about the headspace of an athlete because you've coached high level athletes. You coach NFL, right? Olympic athletes and so on, college prepping them for whatever they have, in store for them in the future. What is in the mind of the female athletes and the male athletes, and what's the difference when it comes to their mental stability and their training for these amazing things?
I'm going to give you two people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go the highest, and I'm gonna go the lesser than. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to give you Shakari Richardson, and I'm going to give you Noah Lyles.
Okay.
Okay, Shakari Richardson is probably the mentally toughest female athlete I've ever witnessed
Mm-hmm.
because she will fight you. And what? But see, check this out
And she
though.
will stand up for herself too. I
She
love
will
that.
fight you because the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
female athletes are different than male athletes. I had a friend of mine that told me this years ago. I said, when you look for a 100-meter sprinter, who do you look for? I'm looking for the girl who is not afraid to get into a fist fight. That's the 100-meter girl I'm looking for. Okay. But see, you have girls. Now, check this out. Females can be like a Shakari Richardson, or she can
Mm-hmm.
be like a Shelly Ann Fraser. Not really biblical. She's not really outright rambunctious, but
Mm-hmm.
she has an inner lioness that's just unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
Females are a little bit different than male athletes. The male athletes, for the simple fact that they are very feminine, but they're very, very territorial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the sense that when they decide they're going to do it, they're going to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, There was a female that I had one time. It's like, by looking at her, you didn't think she had it in her, but she was an unbreakable lioness. When she did it, she did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on the male side, look, Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles is probably, people say, I don't like his arrogance. I love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
Noah Lyles' arrogance because he tells himself what he's going to do and he does it. Because in that situation, when I look at all the documentaries and the movements that Noah Lyles has, in all intents and purposes, he should not have won.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I understand the breakdowns of what he does. His start is not there like Christian Coleman. In all intents
Mm-hmm.
and purposes, Christian Coleman should be destroying everybody. But you look at the difference between a Christian Coleman and a Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles, his ability to believe is all the way at the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the ceiling. And
Mm-hmm.
when I saw what I saw in the 200-meter dash, I said something's wrong. Something ain't right. When I watched him in the 100-meter dash, and then I watched Noah Lyles in the 200-meter first round, second round, and then the finals, something ain't right. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't put my hand on it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they announced that he had COVID, I said, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, you knew something was off.
No, something was off. When you don't do what he did in the 100-meter dash and then turn around and run like that in the 200, it just doesn't compute.
Yeah.
The only way that could
Yeah.
look like that is fitness, and I don't think that was fitness. You know,
Yeah.
so with his belief system and his ability to go when he needs to go, there was a gear that he didn't have that should have been there.
Yeah.
Corey Richardson, same thing in the preliminaries. I said something ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw what happened, then they talked about the preliminaries, why Shelly
Mm-hmm.
Ann Fraser, Sharika Jackson were not in the 100-meter dash. They got hurt trying to rush their warm ups and stuff like that. You can't, some athletes cannot be taken out of their ritual. So when you
Yeah.
look at the male
Yeah.
athletes here at the lower level, I've seen athletes, Kendall, that are unbreakable athletes that you just can't break them. They can come to practice or not come to practice. Allen Iverson was that
Mm-hmm.
type of athlete. Allen Iverson
AI. I
had
love AI
he
about the
had but
Sixers.
he had a
Mm-hmm.
he had a mental. Everybody look at
Yeah.
how gifted Allen Iverson was, but this kid had a
Yeah.
mental approach to the game that was just
Yes.
unbreakable, right?
Yes.
But then
Yep.
you take somebody and you take and I'm going to say this. Everybody going to think I'm crazy when I say this. Allen Iverson and or let's just say Michael Jordan had the same thing. He had that. Kobe had that same thing. That unbreakable mental approach.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about LeBron James, he's a
Mm-hmm.
great athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the mental approach that those guys had, like a Jordan, Iverson, and a Kobe, nah, nah. I'm sorry.
Tell me what's the difference?
Gifting. Gifting overrides their mental approach. That means they can do everything right. But when it
Because
comes
they're
down to somebody,
gifted.
you take
Like,
somebody that's,
hmm.
huh?
No, no, I want you to continue. That's interesting.
They're gifted. They're gifted athletes. Okay? But when you look at Michael Jordan, Kobe, and Iverson, they were just outright landishly great athletes. They were athletes that could do things that nobody else could do.
Hmm.
Nobody else could do what Allen Iverson could do. They couldn't do that. They couldn't do what Kobe could do. They couldn't do what Jordan could do. But these guys they were lions at the highest level. These guys were just unbreakable lions that if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Even if
Mm-hmm.
I have to do it by myself.
So you're saying it's the mindset.
Yes, but you're born
Like,
with
and
it.
it's interesting because I know that Last Dance, that's very, with Michael Jordan, it was supposed to be about the Chicago Bulls, right? And then I think
Yes.
about AI's documentary, which was amazing. I've seen it years ago. I can't think of what it's called. And getting in the head of that. And then you said Kobe, right? And it's so interesting that you named those three because people love to hate all three of them.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting. Those are the ones. So I wonder if it's something that what you're saying, if it has validity to it.
These
It's
three guys
like
have no
that
matter what in
unbreakable,
their cap.
the confidence, right? That
They
they
have
have.
no matter what in their vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan has it no matter what. Bird
Yeah.
had it. Bird had no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Magic Johnson had no matter what. These guys had
Mm-hmm.
a mental approach to the game that
Mm-hmm.
was just not going to be broken,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. But
Yeah.
then you got athletes. You
Do
can
you think
pump them
that's
out.
taught? Do you think
They're
that's taught and
streaky.
instilled?
Yeah. And the thing is that had I had the understanding of what my gift was and what it wasn't, I think I could have went a lot farther from a mental
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm.
If somebody could say, Anthony, just be you, do what you
Mm-hmm.
can do, it's
Mm.
going to work. Relax.
Yeah.
Opposed to the pressure of you got to win, you got to do this, you got to do that,
So
and you got
somebody
to
had,
make the
if you
national.
had a coach like you coach, if you had a coach
I had
like
it with
yours
Alan.
coach.
I had it with Alan Laws, but Alan Laws didn't coach me in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have that kind of person to tell me, relax, chill, let it work.
Yeah.
You know, even
Yeah.
though we had only 2 years together from my junior and senior year in high school, it
Yeah.
would have been it was different. But see, what I do now that my coaches didn't do with me, you're not coming to me with that.
Yeah.
If you're coming to me with pressure, go back home, come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I'm not putting
Yeah.
up with it. I tell my
Yeah.
athletes from the door, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I've got an athlete right now, man. He's probably the most mentally tough athlete I've had since about what 6 years now. And the kid has
Wow.
it no matter what. He believes he's going to do it, and he does it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And he's only a
Do you think
sophomore.
that's something that you're a sophomore? Do you think that that's born in you, or do you think
Yeah,
that someone deposited that in you?
I think that child was born with it. If you ask
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I really do because
Yeah.
the way he takes the approach to sports and life, he's just a matter of fact kid.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
hard to beat kids like that once they figure it
yeah.
out.
Yeah. So as we wind down this conversation, we'll definitely have a part two. But I wanted to ask you about I wanted to ask you two things. First of all, when it comes, I want to circle back to or continue the conversation, I should say, with mental health. And then I want to ask you personally a question about mental health. But so when you think about mental health in athletes, right? And you think about you, all of these years you have been coaching, all of these years you have been seeing students, or professional athletes struggling with that. Do you find a common denominator? You talked about that expectation, right? Is that the common denominator of what you see? And are they able to be looked at the same when they come out and say, mentally, I'm not there, or I need to take a moment? Is that welcome for them?
Absolutely. Absolutely is welcome because if they tell me, Coach, I'm not mentally here today, go
Mm-hmm.
get on that high jump pit.
Mm-hmm.
Go get in the pool. Go get on the bike. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because mental health can turn into an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And if an athlete is not mentally there, then they can get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it be a hamstring pull, whether it be something they're not paying attention, going over a hurdle, something can
Yeah.
go wrong quickly.
Yeah.
When we're dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
I have to go back. I got to go backwards a little bit with social media. Social media has become a very, very vital situation when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to kids looking at what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you look at Winston, they ran that. You got to run this. No, you don't. Continue what
Mm-hmm.
we talking about.
Yeah.
And what the thing is that it goes back to kids have to relax and let it work. You know what I'm saying? Let the
Yeah.
process take its toll. Riding a
Yeah.
bike. It took me time to ride a bike. You know what I mean? Like one day I just got up and did it. Nobody was
Yeah.
holding the bike for me. I just did it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not that hard. I finally get it. I got it now. I know what I got to
Yeah.
do. And you learn and you get better and better and better. I was 7 years old. I learned how to ride a bike. I taught myself.
Yeah.
You know. But when you look at these children now and how they approach the sport as coaches, We got to have time when we don't have time.
Mm. Mm.
I'll
Mm.
say it again. As coaches, we have to
Mhm.
have time when we don't have time.
Mhm.
I've got 12 o'clock calls, 1 o'clock calls in the morning, kids calling me, my dad just punched me in my face.
Mm.
Over the Christmas break,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Coach, I just need to talk to you. My dad put me out the house. You
Mm.
know, they look at you from a fatherly figure and be like, golly, what
Mhm.
did you say about that? And
Mhm.
you mark it, you write it down, you put a report, you take a report, and you hear some things, Kendall,
Mm.
that are not sports related. It's
Mm. Mhm.
life related,
Mhm.
you know? And you get situations where your kid is at practice and the child just lost his mother. What? You know? A friend of mine, um,
Wow.
the siblings, one sibling went home, the other sibling stayed during the break, and the child was killed in a car accident. Something crazy stuff. Like the
Wow.
child should have been with them. You feel what I'm saying? We're coaching
Wow.
when we're not coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? We're being in these kids' life where we're not in their lives.
Yeah.
You know, when a
That's
child tries
powerful.
when a child tries something, I'll say the word try something, and at the end of the year, it's you that they had to thank that they didn't go through with it, and how much you listened and paid attention to what they had to say and didn't judge them.
Mm.
And I'm like, my God, that's not something I
Mm.
pat myself on the back. You was just
You're
in
talking
position,
about you're talking you're talking about unalive. That's word when
trying,
they
trying, trying,
attempted
trying to go
that.
too far is the word I would use. Trying to go too far, dangerously trying to go too far.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and when they write you a long letter, and I'm talking about not a letter that they text you, they write a letter on a piece of paper and hand it to you at the end of the year. Please, read this, coach, when you get a chance. Saying it was you that really made me calm down. It was you that really helped me. It was you that really that took the time to listen to what I had to say.
How does that make you feel as a
Well,
man and
I
as
don't.
a coach?
Well, it's very humbling, is the word I would use. It's not something I pat myself on the back because I get it wrong. I say the wrong things sometimes. I do the wrong things. Maybe not be the perfect way of saying it, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
what the kids see from me is authenticity. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way over and over again. I'm always the same coach, same one. I
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
not to put them in a position to hurt. No, I try not to.
Yeah. So as we come to the end, I have two questions for you. I want to know what you do for your mental health, and I want you to leave our audience with something that they need to know about mental health in athletes. But what do you do, Anthony, for your mental health?
One thing I do, I talk to somebody. You know, I talk to my friends. I talk to people who have intelligence and reasonable understanding of what life is, not somebody that's just high. I speak to a sports counselor. I do. I talk to a
Mhm.
sports counselor myself. And I always leave room for one thing that nobody ever talks about with mental health. I leave room for the X factors. And when I say X factors,
Mhm.
things that you don't see coming a mile away, it just happens. Like my pastor in church was saying, life be life. And, it does happen, you know,
Mhm.
and you have to leave yourself room for
Mhm.
unexpected situations, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what
Mhm.
I do. I do those things because if I don't, I'm in
I'm
trouble.
glad you did. Yeah, that part. I'm glad you do. I'm glad that you talk to someone, and I'm glad that you have conversations with other men as well as a sports counselor. I think that's crucial because you can't keep it inside. Because once it's inside, eventually it's gonna the top is gonna pop,
Yeah.
and it's not going to be pretty for you or anybody around you. And I think that we need to start normalizing mental health in conversations like this. We have to start normal, especially for men, definitely for Black men, where the stress level is sky high and hypertension is running through our community like wildfire because of stress, because of anxiety, because trying to put everything on you guys' back, right? You
Yeah.
got to handle everything all the time. Even if you don't have to do it, you think you have to do it. So lastly, well, not lastly, but I want to know quickly, in few words, what brings you joy?
A good ground of golf
Nice. You know about the
by
golfers
myself. By
by
myself.
yourself. I love it.
Yes.
That brings you joy.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
So there has been debate. I called you the other day because my boyfriend was like, "You was fast. Could you tell the people?" I know you said it in one of my other shows. Could you tell the people that your girl was fast? Okay.
Well, you want to tell everybody that you beat me. What you want to know is you want to tell everybody that you beat me in the hallways and track practice before practice started at Pleasantville High School, our 10th grade year, in the hallway, and you raced me for like about 30 or 40 meters or something like that, something short, and you beat me. But what you
You
didn't
know
know
me. I
is,
can't even remember.
but what you didn't know is Anthony didn't understand technique a day at all. I didn't understand anything about technique. I didn't understand anything about force application to the ground. Everything was about quickness and trying to beat you, and you beat me. Okay, but
Girl
but
power.
just
Muscle.
but what happened? What happened the very next year though?
Uh-uh. We went to a different high school, both of us,
Yes, we did.
and we did that thing. We went to the Penn relays. We went to the what's the Deffert one in Jersey? We got,
Deptford relays. No, so it was the Woodbury relays, right?
the Woodbury relays, the
Woodbury
Woodbury
relays, Bristol relays.
Christian relays.
The thing is, all jokes aside, I really it's funny because when you stop running, I'm like, what are you doing? What you mean you ain't running no more? Like I didn't understand it.
Wow.
Like you of all people, why did you stop? I didn't understand at the time. But
Yeah. I don't know why. Actually, I don't know why I stopped running. I loved to run. I ran since I was like 5 or 6 years old. 50, remember the 50-yard dash when young?
yeah,
I mean, I loved it. And I did, for those that don't know, I did the 110 hurdles, I did the long jump, I did the 400 relay, and I did the 100. Sometimes I did the 200. And I loved it. Loved it. I don't know why I stopped. I didn't run in college, and then it kind of left from there.
yeah. Well, I had nowhere else to
I would
go,
love to
to be
be a
honest
track
with you.
coach, though. I would love to be a track
Uh,
coach. I would love to be a track coach.
it's not that hard. It really isn't.
I would love to be. If you give me a track coach job in Maryland, I'll take it just like that.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
But all right, so any last words as we end? Anything that you want to tell the peoples and
One thing,
everybody? Thank you so much for watching live or the playback. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so and share this out with the athletes and some of the men as we talk about mental health with athletes, but also men in general. Why it's difficult for men to talk about their mental health and why it's not okay for them to say, you know what, I ain't feeling like it today. I want you to send this, and I want you, all the men that are watching, all the athletes that are watching, men and women, I want you to have a open space to be able to talk about it. Les Brown says asking for help doesn't mean you're weak, it's because you want to remain strong. So there's nothing weak about asking for help and saying, you know what, I'm not good. I think it's brilliant. I think it's strong. I think it's strength. I think it's sexy. I think it's all of those things to say, I'm not good. Say what it is. So the people around you can support you in that. But if you're pretending, nobody knows, right? So then
right?
when you pop off, everybody looking at you like, what happened? So I think it's important. So please share this out. to everybody and let conversations like this go viral. I think it's very important. But you have the last word, sir. So what would you like to tell the peoples?
When you talk to somebody about, don't try to act like there's nothing wrong. Say something. You know, if you have to get on a hotline, and the Kendéll, if you have anything to put out there for like people that don't know how to reach out to someone for when
Mm-hmm.
mental health, there are mental health hotlines out
Mm-hmm.
there, okay, that they can reach out to and call and just talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nobody knows that you're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be broadcast all over social media that you call the national
Mm-hmm.
hotline for mental
Mm-hmm.
health, or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. But pick up the phone and
Mm-hmm.
call. If you don't have nobody to talk to, pick up the phone and ask
Yep. All
somebody
you
for
got to
help.
do from your phone is put 988. 988 will get you started if you feel like you don't want to be here anymore. If you need somebody to talk to, 988 from any phone.
And
Yeah.
that's that's what I say. That's the last thing I want to say. Like, don't let it get to the point where you don't think you can't make it anymore. You have to get some help before anything gets to that point. You got to say something.
I love that. I love that. Talk about your new book that you were a part of, and if you want to talk a little bit about the documentary that you and I will be working on
Yes.
down the line.
I have a book out. It's called The Heart of the Black Man. It's a compilation of 30 black men. It talks about my story, my chapter particularly, about how I made the biggest change of my life going to Oakcrest. And it pretty much altered where I'm at today. Why
Mhm.
I'm in this sport. It all happened at Oakcrest, and the things that I was doing wrong, and then the choices that I made that became the right choice, and it became a permanently right choice,
Mhm.
where I'm at today. And let's talk about the documentary. The documentary is going to be something else. I'm actually, my son and I were talking about doing the writing, the script. The script. We got to get you to write some of your script in there too for your
Mhm.
questions.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a 20-minute short first,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then what we're going to do, we're going to have it filmed at our old school, and we'll have a 20-minute version of that, and then the full documentary will follow after the 20-minute short.
And tell them about your son and tell them what's about to happen with your son because you mentioned your
Yes.
son. So you definitely got to talk about that.
Isaiah Washington, my son, is actually graduating from LA Film School next week Friday, and he is a screenwriter. So what we're trying to do, I'm trying to coach him into writing my story and making it
Mhm.
his as a movie.
Mhm.
Sit here and I look at the whole situation in a nutshell, is that I'm proud of him that he actually became that kind of person to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just excited. I'm excited about that. Congratulations to your son.
Thank
That's
you.
huge. And I can't wait to do this documentary. First, we're going to do the short, and I have the pleasure of being the narrator and the host. So
Yes,
Anthony and I are going to have two chairs on our track field. We both ran and we both won, and I think that that's pretty darn awesome to go back to Oakcrest High School in Mays
yes,
Landing, New Jersey, where we both ran. We ran for Pleasantville High School as well in Pleasantville, New Jersey, but this is Oakcrest where we both went the longest and ran the longest for the school. To be able to go back, we have been out of high school for 35 years.
yes.
And to go back, I think is phenomenal. Anthony, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this and to talk about this and to want to talk about it. I think it's important. And I just want to commend you for being the coach that you are and being a safe place for your athletes to come to you. Like you said, 12 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And for a new age teenager to be writing hand letters saying, this is what you've done. You saved my life. You helped me in this. I think that's a testament to how you are as a coach and how you are as a man. And it truly shows you care. So, I'm proud of you for that. And congratulations. And I wish you nothing but success in everything you do in your field of coaching, as well as an author and soon to be a documentary writer.
Yes, yes. And Kendall, I really appreciate this platform because it really needed to be said. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because I think that people need to recognize that this is a problem and we need to get a hold of it quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, thank you again for watching Kendéll Lenice Live. It's about changing the narrative, having honest conversations with a compassionate approach. I want to change the narrative with my channel. You know, it's all about education, elevation, and entertainment. I can definitely entertain you all day long, but I want to help you get elevated as well as educate you and have a twist to the conversations. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so now. And again, share this out, comment whether you're watching live or the playback. And if you have any questions, definitely put them in the comments. And if you have just statements, put them there as well. God bless y'all. Peace. Thank you for watching. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Kendall.